Sairam everyone, welcome back to our history class. We will continue with our lesson Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. We'll do a small recap of what we have learned in the last class. Okay, in the last lesson we studied conflict between provisional government and the Bolsheviks grew. A military revolutionary committee was set up. Winter Palace was attacked. Okay. Bolsheviks controlled Moscow Petrograd. Banks and industries were nationalized. Land was declared social property. Bolsheviks party was renamed as the Russian Communist Party. Also we studied that Bolsheviks, they made peace with Germany. Everyone opposed for this. Everyone opposed this. Russia became one party state. Then we also studied about the civil war that broke between the Bolsheviks and the non-Bolsheviks. A process of centralized planning was introduced to change the economy of the country. Targets were set up for 5-year plan. This is what we studied in the last class, and today we will be continuing with our lesson, and the topic we are going to take up right now is Stalinism and collectivization. In the year 1928, Soviet Russia was dealing with the problem, and the problem was of shortage of grain supplies. Shortage of grain supplies. To overcome these problems, this situation, the government fixed the prices, at which these grains were to be sold. They fixed the prices of the grains. But the peasants, they refused to sell their produce to the government agencies at this price. They just refused to do that. To tackle this crisis, to tackle this situation, the then leader of the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin, he implemented a strong emergency measures. Before moving further, I'll just tell you who was this Joseph Stalin. Can you see on your monitor? Did you see Joseph Stalin? I'll tell you about him. He was an Soviet politician, who led the party, Communist Party from mid-1920s to 1953. He was born in the year 1878 and he died in the year 1953. As I told you that he led the Soviet Union from the mid-1920s and until 1953 as a general secretary of the Communist Party, of the Soviet Union. Now, Stalin headed the party. He headed the party after death of Lenin. Now, he believed that the rich peasants and the traders. Now, peasants and traders were in the countryside. Okay, were speculating. And as a result, were holding stocks, holding grains, not selling the grains in the market. That it does mean that. They were holding the stocks. Okay, and in the hope of getting higher price at a later date. They wanted to earn more money. So they were holding the stock. He felt that this kind of speculation should be stopped. Yes, to be stopped. And supplies to be confiscated. Okay, he felt that. In 1928, party members, they toured this grain producing areas, and there they supervised and enforced grain collection. Okay, they found out who were the ones who were holding the grains. Raids were carried out against the Kulaks. Now, who are these Kulaks? Kulaks were rich peasants. Okay, they were well-to-do farmers. However, what happened? Shortage of food grains continued. Yes, shortage of food grains continued in Soviet Russia. And it was then decided that to overcome this shortage, okay, of grains, the farms should be collectivized. Now, what is the meaning of collectivized? It should be collectively, okay, land should be merged together, okay, and make a large plot, and this large plot of land should be cultivated collectively by the farmers. Okay, and the reason the government gave for this was that small holdings, the small plot of lands could not be modernized. This was the reason government gave. And it is not modernized. Modernized in the sense, modern equipments cannot be used. Okay? So, if it is not modernized, the crops cannot be grown on a large scale. There will be shortage of grains. Okay, so to be able to have large holdings, the small holdings, okay, had to be merged into one large holding. This started the new era, the era of Stalin collectivization. Okay, the main feature of this program that was implemented in 1921 were, first one is, I'll just tell you, individual holdings were taken away. Okay, their holdings were taken away from the peasants. Their lands were taken away from the peasants, and they were forced to work in this collective farm. The farm which was merged. Okay, they were forced to work in this collective farm. Kolkhoz. Now, who are this kolkhoz means what? Kolkhoz means the profit. Profit from the collective farming was shared by everyone who worked on that plot of land, or the land holders, okay, whose land was merged into one large land. So the profit was not shared amongst everyone. Even the implements which was used for farming were transferred to the ownership of the collective farms. Okay? The peasants were not happy with the idea of collective agriculture. Now, why they were not happy with this? See, there are many reasons. First thing is, I'll give you an example. Suppose, say I am a farmer. You are also a farmer. I am having land, a small piece of land. You too are having a land, plot of land. But my plot of land is bigger than yours. Now, when it is merged, we all are working on that land, that larger plot of land. Okay, the profit is shared equally amongst all the peasants, okay, who are holding those lands. Now, I am not happy. Why? Because my plot was larger than your plot, but the profit is shared equally. You are getting me? So, peasants were not happy with this. Also, one more thing, there were many reasons, such reasons. But here one more example I would like to give you. They were forced to sell their grains at a price which was fixed by the government. Here also they are at loss because they are not enjoying profit. Okay, that's the reason the peasants were not happy with the idea of collective agriculture, and they started resisting it. One of the ways they resisted this decision was by destroying the livestock. Okay, here you can see the image. Between 1921 and 1929 and 1931, the number of cattle fell by 1/3 because they killed them. Okay, so the government now was forced, and the government was forced to allow some independent cultivation. Okay, but such independent cultivators were treated unsympathetically by the government. Mercilessly, they were punished. Despite implementing collectivization, the agricultural production in USSR did not increase immediately. Okay. Now, to add to this worst bad harvest of 3 years, okay, from 1930 to 1933, led the one of the most shattering famines in Soviet history. You know why it was called shattering famine? The reason was over 4 million people, over 4 million people died. They lost their lives because of this famine. Government was annoyed with those peasants who opposed collectivization. Government came into action. Government came down harshly on these peasants. On which peasants? Those peasants who oppose collectivization. Okay, who they felt were offenders. They started blaming the peasants for all this crisis. These peasants were severely punished. Punishment was severe, including facing deportation, or peasants were exiled too. Exiled means they were asked to leave their house, their country. Yes. By 1939, okay, 2 million, 4 million people died, lost their life. By 1939, over 2 million people, they were in prison or in labor camps. More than 2 million people. Majority of those, killed were innocent people. Very innocent. Even they were killed. Okay, but no one was willing to speak for them. These peasants, no one was ready. They were forced, tortured. They were forced to make false confession by the government. Okay, many, including people from different professions, like talented professions, different professions like scholars, like thinkers, okay, who raised their voice against the government, against collectivization. All these people were charged with conspiracy. Okay, they were tortured and even executed. People who spoke against collectivization were tortured, imprisoned, and even executed. Now let's move on to the last topic of this lesson. Okay, that is the global influence of the Russian Revolution and the USSR. Okay. The idea of this collectivization, okay, or a worker state caught the imagination of the people around the world. See, many peasants, they opposed this in Russia, but all over the world, in many countries, people like this idea of collectivization. They supported this idea. In many countries of the world, communist parties were formed. Okay, for example, the Communist Party of Great Britain. Okay, now in 1920, many non-Russians, not from Russia but from outside the USSR, they participated in the conference. This conference was of the people of East, and Bolshevik found Communist International, or it is also called as Comintern, which means an international union of pro-Bolshevik socialist party. Pro-Bolshevik means what? Pro-Bolshevik means supporters of Bolshevik party. Okay? Some attended USSR's Communist University of the Workers of the East. Thus, there was a global face of socialism. Okay, USSR was a global face of socialism. However, by 1950s, the world had realized that all was not well in Soviet Union. Yes, I told you that people all over the world, many peasants from different parts of the world, they supported collectivization. But what was happening in Russia? It was opposed by many people, by many parties, by peasants. Okay, so now everyone came to know. Okay, everyone realized that all was not well in Soviet Union. Within the country too, people understood that the function of the government was not in keeping with the ideas of Russian Revolution. Okay, the communication has brought in remarkable changes in its industries, or you can say way of cultivating land or doing agriculture. Okay, and also managed to feed its poor people, okay, poor citizens. But simultaneously, communism had deprived its people of their basic freedom through its repressive policies, which was imposed by the government. Yeah, by the end of the 20th century, USSR's reputation as a socialist country had declined in the international community. Yeah, because people came to know that the people of Russia were not at all happy with the government. Even the people within the country, they came to know these are not the ideas which was, which had come out from the Russian Revolution. So, Russia lost its prestige. Now, we have completed this lesson. We have done with our lesson. We will be meeting after a small break in the next session. Till then, study and take care. Thank you.
Good morning, students. In this video, I am going to explain you about the economics project that you need to do during your summer vacation. Before I begin, I want you all to take out your books and pens so that you can jot down the points. Let's start. Cover page. Let's see what all things will be included in your cover page. Name, your roll number. You can write your previous year's roll number, students. Standard and division. School, that is name of your school. And the topic. And your topic is disaster management. So once again, what all things you're going to include in your cover page? Your name, roll number, standard and division, name of your school, and the topic. And your topic is disaster management. Once you are done with your cover page, your next step will be completing the index. And let's see what all things will be included in the index. Number 1, what is disaster management? Number 2, you are going to include any 3 topics out of these 4. Earthquake, landslides, floods, famines. So choice is yours. You can select any 3 topics out of these. Okay. Then number 3, causes and effects of each. Number 4, mitigation strategy for each after the natural disaster occur. Then finally bibliography. So once again, your index. Number 1, you need to write what is disaster management. Number 2, we'll have subtopics: earthquake, landslide, floods, famines. You can select any 3 out of these. Then causes and effects of each, mitigation strategy for each, and at the end bibliography. Okay, now let me explain you these things in detail. Students, do you know what is disaster management? Disaster management refers to the conservation of lives and property during natural or man-made disaster. So you'll explain what is disaster management in detail. Then you're going to select any 3 topics out of this, and you need to explain in detail about earthquake, landslides, floods, and famines. Then you need to explain causes and effects of each. For example, floods. How are floods caused? Yes, due to heavy rainfall. And what about famines? Due to scarcity of rainfall. These are the causes. And what are the effects? Like, what is the effect after an earthquake occur? Yes, many people die, isn't it? There will be damage to property as well. So I hope you have understood causes and effects, right? Now next move on to mitigation strategy. Students, what is mitigation strategy? Mitigation is the effort to reduce loss of life and property by lessening the impact of disasters. Okay. Now, for example, after an earthquake, what will be the mitigation strategy? Yes, to rescue the people, proper rehabilitation for the people, right? So you will be writing about the mitigation strategy for each, that is for each natural disaster after the natural disaster occur. Okay, so I hope it's clear, students. Then comes the bibliography. Bibliography is the list of sources you need to mention wherein you get the information, like books, magazines, newspapers, Wikipedia, etc. Draw or stick pictures related to the topic on the left hand side of the page. So left hand side of the page you are going to draw or stick the pictures related to the topic, and on the right hand side you are going to write the information about the topic. Okay. You can use assignment sheets or full-scale paper. You may be having last year's assignment sheets, right? You can use those assignment sheets. If you don't have, you can use the full-scale paper. Project must be handwritten. No need to type. Okay, you have to write it. It must be handwritten. Minimum 10 pages. So your project will comprise of 10 pages. Once you are done with the project, you need to tie the pages with satin ribbon, or you can do spiral binding, or else you can staple along the left side end of the page at 3 places. I hope it's clear, students. Once again, I'll repeat. Your cover page, you need to write name, roll number, standard, division, school, topic, that is disaster management. Your index, you need to write what is disaster management. You can select any 3 topics out of these: earthquake, landslide, floods, famines, causes and effects of each, mitigation strategy for each after the natural disaster occur, bibliography, draw or stick pictures related to the topic on the left hand side of the page. You can use assignment sheets or full-scale paper. Your project must be handwritten, minimum 10 pages. Once the project is done, you can tie the pages with satin ribbon, or you can do spiral binding, or you can staple along the left side end of the page at 3 places. I hope it's clear, students. Happy vacation. Meet you after vacation. Till then, bye and take care.